All right, so what I would like to talk about today, or what I would like you to think about today, is your inner voice or your inner voices. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is I want you to start paying attention to the inner voices and the inner thoughts that you have in response to various situations. And I want you to think about what thoughts come more naturally to you, or the most naturally to you. Is it more natural for you to have a negative thought, or is it more natural for you to have a positive thought? When you have a situation, or when you're faced with a challenge, do you think to yourself like, oh wow, this is a great opportunity to me, or there's a great opportunity for me? Or do you think, oh no, why me? Do you think, oh, here we go again? Or do you think, wow, this is awesome, like a great opportunity has been foisted on me, okay? And you know, what I think is that so many of these voices that are with us, even though they are not necessarily beneficial to us, and even though they are not necessarily positive for us, and even though they are not necessarily productive for us or motivating for us, they are often the most familiar to us, and therefore, in a strange way, the most comforting for us and to us. So the thing is that very often these voices start out in childhood. So what were the messages that you received as a child? Did you receive a message that you were smart? Did you receive a message that you were not smart? Did you receive a message that the world is your oyster? Or did you receive a message that you'll never amount to anything? Because these are the messages very often, like I said, that are going to stick with us. And for some of us, they stick with us through our entire adult lives, unless we do something to actively change them. Now, you know my favorite story. My favorite story, autobiography in 5 short chapters, right? So let's think about this, okay? So I'm walking down the street and I fall into a giant hole. I have no idea how I've gotten here, and it's not my fault. Okay, so I have no idea how I've gotten here. It's not my fault. Okay, so part of it is sometimes we're not even aware of these voices in our head until we try to become aware of them, or until someone points them out to us, right? A good way of gauging this is, how are you at taking a compliment? So if somebody says, I like your dress, do you say, this ratty old thing, or this, I got it on sale for $1. It's nothing? Do you minimize the compliment, or do you say thank you, or do you accept it, and do you believe it? Okay, do you often hear somebody say something positive to you and you wonder, well, why is this person telling me this? I know that's not true. It's like saying, hey, you look good today. And do you say, do I really look good today, or is this person just saying this to me? So again, autobiography in 5 parts. Initially, you may not even be aware of this. So my first challenge to you is to raise your awareness and think about different situations. And they can be positive situations or negative situations, okay? But just, again, and you know I like to journal, you know I like to keep tabs on things and keep records of things, so that you can observe things over time, and so that you can, sort of take things and assess the situation. So what I would say is, the next time something happens to you, your toilet clogs, okay? Or in my case, my dog craps on the floor, and then when I throw it away in the toilet overflows, okay? That's my week. So do you say to yourself, oh, here we go again, why me? Why does everything always happen to me, right? Do we say this when positive things happen to us? Do we say, wow, why does everything always happen to me? Why does everything always happen to me? And the idea, again, in the interest of truth and in the interest of authenticity and in the interest of balance, personal balance, okay, emotional balance, intellectual balance, etc., 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 okay, the key is always going to be to observe first. What was my response? Don't judge it. Don't criticize it. Don't insult it. Don't be disappointed in it. Just observe it, okay? Because until we're aware of what we're doing, there's no way to change it, right? We sometimes have ideas about what we do and what we don't do, or where we have an idea. I'll tell you something funny, okay? When I was a kid, I remember I must have been about 10 years old, right? And I was in sleepaway camp. And I got my hair cut at this place on, I think it was Avenue U. It was in Mill Basin in Brooklyn, okay? And it was called Continental Haircutters. And the reason why I wanted to go there was because these two guys who I know, who were my gymnastics instructors, okay, got their hair cut there. And these guys had like the coolest hair. I was 10 years old, so it was 1980, let's say. And it was like Saturday Night Fever style, and these guys had the John Travolta, Tony Manero hairdo, and I was like, I want to go to that place. And I said, Ma, let's go to Continental, right? So I got my hair cut, and I got it, cut and styled and this and that and the other thing. And then I was in sleepaway camp, and somebody said to me, and this is how I used to comb my hair. So I used to comb my hair like this, but look what I'm doing, right? And sure enough, okay, so this was my hair comb, this was my hair comb, this was my hair comb, hair. Okay, looked perfect, right? Then I was in sleepaway camp, and one of the counselors said to me, hey, don't you ever brush the back of your hair, okay? And something occurred to me that I never brushed the back of my hair. And then I went and I looked in the mirror, and I had this perfect hair as long as you didn't sort of lean over too far, because what was going on back here was insane chaos. And my point in telling you this story, besides the fact that I think it's a funny story and hopefully you do too, is the fact that sometimes we see ourselves in one way and we're seen completely differently by others in another way, okay? My grandmother used to say, a hunchback can't see their own hump, or something like that. Like a hunchback doesn't see his own hump. And the idea is that we have this idea of ourselves. Some of it may actually even be correct, but some of it may not be correct. And so one of the things that I like to do from time to time is I like to say to somebody, hey, let me ask you a question about this. What do you think of this? I think this. I think by doing this, people will see it as A, B, and C. What am I not seeing here? Or sometimes you have an intention in your head and you say, I'm going to do this, and you think it's something great to do, and you think that somebody's going to really like what you do or really appreciate what you do, and the response is totally unexpected. It's totally the opposite of what you thought it might be, right? And what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? So like you have to ask yourself, well, what is it about this situation that I am not seeing here? And I think that a lot of people are not even open to that concept that they don't see everything, okay? I think a lot of people think that they are in full control and see everything. The thing is that none of us see everything, okay? And we have subconscious and we have unconscious, and we have things that may be right behind us and they may be blatantly obvious to someone else. But whether it be by ego, whether it be by protective mechanism, whether it be by self-preservation, we don't allow ourselves to see these things. And so again, authenticity, as I say always, is my most valued commodity. I like the truth, for better or for worse. After 9/11, okay, 9/11 was very tough for us in New York City, okay? It was particularly tough for me, not particularly more tough for me than anybody else in New York City, but I happened to have lost my best friend, who was a fireman, amongst other people that day, and it was a very hard time. It was a very, very hard time for me. We were also shortly before 9/11 involved in a Medicare audit that wasn't going our way, and then I had a sort of end of a relationship, kind of this perfect storm that 9/11 was like the negative the negative icing on this cake, okay, of this perfect storm that occurred to me. And it took a lot out of me, okay? It took a lot out of me personally. It took a lot out of me professionally. My best friend Larry, who was a fireman, was also a physical therapist at the Pulmonary Wellness and Rehabilitation Center. So it's like patients wanted to talk about this all day, every day. And I get it. I recognize that they had lost somebody that they cared about, but it wasn't the same as who I had lost. So it's almost like I had to rethink it all day, every day for each person who walked in the door. So incidentally, okay, let me give you a piece of advice about this. Like, if you know somebody who lost somebody in the World Trade Center or in any type of emergency, okay, here's a little piece of advice that nobody might tell you, but I'm gonna tell you because I've experienced it many, many times. If you find out that somebody lost somebody close to them and you didn't, they don't want to hear your story about how you watched it on TV or how you saw the first plane hit or you saw the second plane hit or what you were doing on that day. It's not a comforting story, okay? It's not a comforting story. And I'm telling you this not because I'm upset. I'm telling you this in the hopes that I spare you hoisting that story onto somebody, and I spare that person having that story hoisted on them, okay? Because it's a very, very personal thing. And you know, another thing is that a lot of times when you're at a funeral or when you have a funeral for somebody that you've lost, and unfortunately I've had more than my share of people who I've lost, and especially young people who I've lost. I think the best words you could say to somebody are, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. You know, in my opinion, okay, and again, this is my opinion, you may totally disagree with me, which I respect that, but I don't find it comforting when somebody says to me they're in a better place, or now they're at peace, or, you know, all the things that people say, only surely in an effort to try to comfort those left behind. But in my opinion, I don't find that comforting. And you know what? I'd love to hear people's opinions on that as well, because I might be wrong about that, and some people may want to know that, okay? Some people may want to hear that their loved one that they lost is in a better place. I still want them near me, okay? Anyway, I got a little bit off track, but my point in telling you all this stuff is to just share with you the idea that it's important to raise your awareness. And in particular, you know, thoughts become actions, or thoughts become words, and words sometimes can become actions. And they don't always become actions, but the idea is your thoughts are your thoughts and your feelings are your feelings, and you can't necessarily help what you think and you can't help what you feel, but you can become more aware of your tendencies. And if your tendency is to react in more of a negative way, or your tendency is to react more as a victim, or your tendency is to react more like somebody who is hurt, or somebody who is angry, or somebody that's easily angered, or somebody that is jealous or resentful. And again, I'm not speaking about any one person. I could be speaking about myself, okay? Because we all have these feelings from time to time to time, okay? But the idea is to understand, well, what is my natural tendency? So if my natural tendency is to say, well, you know what? Something great happened to so-and-so, I'm happy for them, okay? Or am I jealous of them? Or am I resentful of them? Okay? Or I might say, hey, you know what? I'm really happy for you. I hope things go well. I wish you well, right? And then to think, try to align your thoughts and try to align your feelings. Try to align your thoughts with your feelings. Try to align your thoughts and feelings with your words. And then try to align your thoughts and your feelings and your words with your actions. okay? And again, when you're watching TV and you see somebody do something amazing, what aspect of that act do you focus on? Do you focus on the beauty of the act? Do you focus on the individual's appearance? Do you focus on something else? Or do you immediately think of yourself right away? There's a lot of people who all they want to talk about is themselves, okay? We live in an age where Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's the lifetime of the selfie. It's the lifetime of look at me. It's the lifetime of FOMO, mere fear of missing out, right? And it's the lifetime of these kind of curated existences where I look at somebody's Facebook profile and it's completely curated, right? So everybody likes to talk about their successes. Those get broadcast way out. But very few people talk about their failures. Very few people talk about their struggles, okay? And part of what I'm getting at, and these things kind of always snake around a little bit, but I want to say that it's okay to talk about your struggles. It's okay to talk about things that didn't quite go so well. It's okay to talk about the time when you lost all your money. I've done it. I've lost all my money in the past. Made some back, okay? But these things happen, okay? And the thing is that if you want to make sure that you never fail, if you want to make sure that you never make a mistake, if you want to make sure that nothing ever goes wrong, there's a very simple way to do it. Don't do anything. Don't try anything. Don't say anything. Don't strive for anything. Because if you never try, you can never fail. It's that simple, okay? Very often I go into things that I would say without a net, let's say. Not Annette, the woman, but without a net. I'll take a jump. I'll take a leap. With the belief that I can probably accomplish what I set out to do. Often I am right. I am not always right, and sometimes what I set out to do doesn't work. It doesn't go as planned. Like I said before, I expect a certain response. The response I get is totally different. I thought this was going to be great. The people hated it, okay? But every once in a while, I am right, okay? And every once in a while, I hit a home run. And the Pulmonary Wellness and Rehabilitation Center was my greatest home run ever. That was like a grand slam home run at the end of Game 7, 2 men out, 2 men on, 3 men on, 2 men out, or whatever they say, bottom of the 9th, home run, Pulmonary Wellness and Rehabilitation Center, okay? But again, there have been trials and tribulations all along our 20-year path. Personal, professional, business, etc., etc., etc. And that is okay, okay? But let me backtrack a second because I now recall why I brought up 9/11, okay? So 9/11, the Medicare audit, the breakup, all around 2001, okay, somewhere between, let's say, July 2001 and September 2001, really, I would say brought me to my knees in a way that I never have been before at that time in my life. I was 31 years old. I'd never lost anyone close to me. That in the context of this massive citywide and nationwide response, okay? And I remember my sister, Erica, said something to me, and she said, well, at least you learned something about yourself. And I said, well, what did I learn? And she said, well, maybe you learned that you're not as strong as you think you are. And I looked at her and I was like, and how is that a good thing? And she said to me, she said, well, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a real thing. And it's a true thing. And she was right. And the thing is that sometimes we do realize that we're not as strong as we think we are. And at other times we realize that we're actually stronger than we think we are. And, you know, for me, I don't want to necessarily know that I'm not as strong as I think I am, or that I'm stronger than I think I am. What I want to know is how strong I am. Okay? And that's where the truth comes in. That's where authenticity comes in. And that is where assessment and observation comes in. And so I ask you to start listening to the signals, to the messages that you give yourself. Start listening to the voices in your own head, because very often we are our own worst critic. And very often we're repeating the messages that we've heard over and over and over again in this sort of feedback loop. And if we're going to make any change to those message, if we're going to make any change to that message, okay, the first thing we have to do is we have to observe and assess and listen to what that message is. And if my inner voice is typically telling me, I knew you couldn't do it, or I knew this would never work, then it's time to change the message. Okay? And how do you do it? Autobiography in 5 parts. The first day I walk down a hole, I fall in. I have no idea how I got here. It takes me forever to get out. The next day I'm walking down, I fall in the same hole. I'm still surprised. It's not my fault, but I get out more quickly. The third day I'm walking down, it is my fault. I get out fast. The fourth day I walk around the hole. The fifth day I walk down a different street. And the idea behind this is that initially we are unaware of these behaviors that are harming us. Then we become aware and we get out more quickly. Then we become more aware and we can start avoiding these behaviors and avoiding these voices. And I want you to really try to think about what it is that you want to tell yourself, and what you would tell yourself, or what you would tell somebody else if you heard them talking about why they will not succeed. Just that little bit of pat on the back, just that little bit of encouragement, that in the same way that you would want to tell somebody else, tell it to yourself. So when you say, oh man, I'm never going to be able to do this, change the record and say, you know what? If not you, then who? You've been strong before, you can be strong again. It doesn't have to be that. It could be whatever you want it to be. But all I'm saying is that every time a voice comes into your head and tells you something about yourself that is not the most flattering, that is not encouraging, that is not promoting, that is not helpful, that is not nourishing, that is not calming, then you have to talk to yourself and you say, you know what? I hear you, but I am going to take a different route. I am going to change the tune. I am going to flip the record and listen to the B side. And the B side is, yes, we can. Yes, I can. If I can't do it, who can do it? I haven't been killed yet. I've gotten this far and nothing has killed me. I'm still alive. I'm still fighting. I'm still smart. I'm still intelligent. I still have strength. I still have my health. It may not be perfect, but again, we must use what it is that we have. Okay? Use what you have. Do what you have do what you can with what you have where you are. Okay? And we may not have it all. Okay? We may not have what we had when we were 21 years old, but we still have something. Okay? And like everything else, if we're going down, we're not going down without a fight. So use your tools, talk to yourself. When you hear those messages coming in telling you why it's not going to work, override those messages. Be aware of them. Take the breath. Yes, it will work. This time, it will work. This is my time. This is my time. This is my time to win. I don't care what you say. I hear you, but I know that you are not my friend. I know that you are trying to discourage me, but I will not be discouraged. I will keep trying no matter what. Yes, we can. Yes, you can. Listen for that voice. Find out if your inner voice is friend or foe. And if it's friend, let's feed it. And if it's foe, let's starve it and deflect it and get it out of there, okay? And the more you do these things, like every single other behavior pattern that you have, the more you do these things, the more skilled, the more natural, the easier it becomes to do these things. In the same way that your body gets good at doing what you ask it to, your mind also gets good at doing what you ask it to. Your mind is going to listen to the messages you send it, so give it the right messages. Your body is going to listen to the stimuli that you give it, so give it the right stimuli. Your body is going to respond to the food and the nourishment that you give it. So give it the right food and nourishment, okay? You get the idea. You can do this. Listen for that voice. Ask yourself, is it friend or foe? And if it's foe, you know what you need to do, because foe, F-O-E, is not always true. Often it's foe as well, F-A-U-X, okay? So friend or foe, real or foe. What you think of that? All right? Have a great day, everybody. You can do this. When that voice is cheering you on, you suck it in. You embrace it. You drink it. When that voice is booing you, when that voice is discouraging you, when that voice is laughing at you and criticizing you and telling you why it will never work, that's when we put up our force field against that negativity. Okay? Have a great one. You can do it.